Hello, welcome back to the Evergreen RX. I'm your host, Hayden, licensed mental health therapist, Cancer Moon, and the first to get deep at any party. So I hope you guys liked last episode. Chatty catch up, no question for last week. If you've missed it, please go listen to it because I think it's kind of actually relevant to the question of this week. So let me know your thoughts on that. But I have a lovely listener question that I want to get into you guys. But I have a lovely listener question that I want to get into with you guys because it feels so relevant. I'm like, woo, girl, do I have an answer? I don't really know. I mean, I have things to say, but I don't have a solution, which I never have a solution. That's not the point. But like, yikes, it's about overstimulation and just like scrolling and keeping ourselves busy and multitasking. And like, I do this every day of my life. I literally did it before hitting record on this podcast. I like got everything set up. I'm ready to record. Come on, girl, let's get the work done. And I opened up YouTube and I started watching a YouTube video. Why? There's a lot of reasons why, which I'll talk about, but like still, it's fucking annoying. So yeah, I'm excited to get back into answering a question this week. As always, if you guys want to send me yours, send it to theevergreenrx@gmail.com or text me, call me, leave me a voicemail at 512-655-9888. I would love to hear your question and your lovely voice. And as always, you know my disclaimer, it's at the bottom of the podcast description if you want to read it. But in short, I am not trying to give solutions or answers. This is not prescriptive. It's kind of a play on my podcast title, which is The Evergreen RX, because I want to actually break down and move away from being prescriptive, telling you what to do, having all the answers. I really want to just share my thoughts and what I've experienced and what I've learned through being a therapist, through reading a ton of self-help books, through listening to a ton of podcasts, and through doing like 10 years of therapy. And share it with you because like that's how I've learned. It's so important, but also let you kind of make your own decisions and take what works for you. And I don't know all the context. I'm sorry if I make an assumption or say something that's not relevant to you or not relatable to your life or feels exclusionary in any way to you. That's never my intention. I would love to be kindly corrected if I ever do that. I want this to feel like a really inclusive space for everybody. So yeah, without further ado, let's let the customer in. And here's the question. Okay, it says, Dear Evergreen, lately I feel like I'm constantly overstimulated. Even when I technically have downtime, I find myself filling it with distractions. Scrolling, organizing, listening to a podcast while trying to do 10 other things. Real. I keep telling myself I should slow down or rest, but when I actually try to, it feels really uncomfortable and I just try to reach for another distraction. Why is it so hard to sit in silence or go for a walk without music? Why do I feel uncomfy doing nothing? How can I get better at being in the quiet and being bored? Yeah, so this is what I mean by saying it's relatable, and I like really wish, this is one situation where I wish I had like a panacea, like a golden bullet that they could just be like, here's what you do, and now you won't be addicted to your phone anymore, and you will monotask everything. It's awesome. I do wish I had that, or I actually wish somebody had that for me, because I've been trying to figure this out, banging my head against the wall, obsessively Googling things, forever, trying to figure out how to stop being on my phone and doing multiple things at once by doing them at once to try to find a solution. It's crazy. But yeah, life is overstimulating these days, isn't it? Like, it's so easy to just be overwhelmed with everything we have going on. Like, even when you're just at the grocery store, which can be kind of overstimulating, and your phone is buzzing in your pocket. Like, oh my God, even if you don't look at it, if you have the impulse control, it's still buzzing in your pocket. And sometimes that's just the last straw you need to just send you over the edge. And so it is really overstimulating. And part of what I find, it's kind of paradoxical about feeling overstimulated all the time and then reaching for more overstimulating things, like going on TikTok or, multitasking like a chore while listening to a podcast or something. I find it really interesting that we make the problem worse by trying to make it better, which I mean, that's a tale as old as time. But you think that like a moment of silence or stillness or boredom would be like a godsend, a reprieve these days. But as this listener's questioning and noticing, it actually can feel really uncomfortable and strange, which seems so counterintuitive. And then we find ourselves reaching for these comforts that then ultimately leave us more stressed and more overwhelmed. And, a big thing for me that I've noticed recently is when I get home from a day at work, I've got like people's stuff that's kind of latched on to me. Like, maybe I've been dealing with a lot of heightened emotions or just absorbing a lot of energy all day. And so I want to get home and I want to relax naturally. But then I find myself scrolling on my phone, just like dropping my bags at the door and sitting down and scrolling on my phone. And I've mentioned this before. There was an episode I did on phone addiction or something. I'll have it linked below. I talk about kind of like the blunt force we try to smack ourselves with by using our phones to try to relax. But I'll find myself doing that. And I realized recently, I was like, oh, I'm trying to regulate myself. Whatever it is that maybe came up for me emotionally that I had to table when I was at work, now that I have the space for it, that's really uncomfortable. And I'm trying to regulate kind of in the wrong ways. I'm trying to help calm myself down instead of actually sitting with what's coming up or noticing and getting curious with myself. And, obviously it's not super effective either. I don't really feel relaxed. Sometimes I can get a little bit irritable even when I do that after a day of work. But it can be helpful to kind of understand why you might continue to reach for or do things that just like don't help you or are part of the problem to begin with. We can think about it. Oh, okay, I'm trying to regulate. I'm trying to calm my nervous system enough so I can actually feel relaxed in the silence or in the stillness. So I'm going to start like behavioral kind of, or more like top level stuff. And then I want to go deeper into more of like what's going on emotionally that's causing us these problems. But first I'll just say, habituation is a big thing. A lot of us have been multitasking since day one, basically. Technology became more part of the classroom when I was going to school, and probably a lot of you guys have that same experience. And so we kind of got into this space of multitasking, and it also took off in COVID when like everything was on the computer. So your hobbies, your relaxation, maybe some pleasurable things are on your computer. That sounds weird. Maybe like, your Netflix or whatever is on your computer, and also your work and your emails and your bills you got to pay. So it's all there. And then we're kind of switching between things at all times. So there is a lot of habituation to these things that we do. And it takes time to break that habit and to unload everything that's built up over time. And so that kind of gets into the emotional piece, what's built up. But, I have to just mention that through multitasking, we're seeking these dopamine hits. Oh, okay, I started this task. It got a little boring. Let me just now go over to this other task that maybe gives me a quick dopamine hit or a feeling of satisfaction. And so like, it's an addiction, babes. It's an addiction. Scrolling and listening to a podcast and doing all these things at once, we just are kind of addicted to it. And so we're going to get that dopamine hit from doing certain things, and we're going to seek it out more, especially when we start to feel a little bit uncomfortable. And this is the part that I haven't quite hacked, but I know there's ways to work on it. Obviously, sometimes it's not the thing I want to do. It's like the last thing I want to do, but like developing tolerance for that discomfort is really the way out of it. But all I can fathom right now on how we do that is to have some like willpower to help us just not do the thing we always do, to clean the dishes in silence instead of always putting on a TV show like we do. It's just takes some willpower, which it's tough. It's really tough. I struggle with it a lot. Sometimes I think it can help a little bit to not make it such a big deal. Like if you do find yourself scrolling, trying to kind of numb out when you're at work, or, if you just can't resist putting on music when you go on your walk, like just try not to make it such a big deal. Because I think sometimes when we feel like something is taboo or feel deprived of it, then that makes us crave it more, and it kind of creates this like real desire around it. And so, then we want to cling to it longer. And we also want to cling to it longer to avoid the onslaught of criticism we might get or the judgment we might feel for ourselves for doing it again. So, I think it can be helpful to not be so hyper focused on trying to change this behavior, but just like gently inviting yourself, like maybe this time I could try to leave my phone in the living room when I go to the bathroom. Let's see. And if you're like, I really don't want to do that, okay, just let it go that time maybe. Like I think since there isn't any perfect solution, if we don't feel that we're going to be deprived of something, it might actually help take some of the intensity out of how much we crave it. Because also, like I said, with that flood of criticism, that is really undesirable and really uncomfortable. And so we're going to try to avoid it. I have a whole episode on self-compassion that I think would be really great to listen to if you do struggle with a really tough inner critic. I'll link it below. But yeah, so that's kind of what I have to say about the more top level side of things. But if you're seeking something a little deeper, then let's go a little deeper. And so one of the big things I hear in this question is like, how do I relax? Like even when I have downtime, like I just can't seem to relax. I just keep maintaining this level of overstimulation, even when it's self-imposed. So this makes me think about the nervous system and why it can be so hard for us to relax, because sometimes our mind and our body, they're not in sync. That's why you can go to a wonderful beach for a week-long vacation and not feel relaxed, because your mind might be like, hell yeah, I'm on board, I want this, but your body is saying something isn't safe here, something isn't okay, so I can't relax. And it can be a really frustrating thing, and we try to force ourselves into relaxation sometimes, which can honestly make it worse. So, there are ways to help this. One, just understanding like, okay, my body is holding this tension for some reason. It's not able to fully soften. So, you can tell yourself things like, it's okay. It's okay to relax here. This is a space in which I can relax, or I can put my guard down, or I can just really let myself soften. Also, rhythm really helps, like rocking, shaking, dancing, feeling your heartbeat. Rhythm is very calming to the body. Taking big breaths, big exhales, big yawns helps our body kind of move into that more rest and digest space. Grounding is wonderful. Being able to go put your feet on the grass or in like a body of water, something that really grounds you into your senses. But really the breath is your best friend when it comes to trying to alert the body that it's actually okay for it to start to relax a bit. And the goal doesn't have to be like full, like I'm melting into the couch, I'm so zen moment. Like it can just be if you notice tension in your jaw and you just relax your jaw a bit and you massage out the muscles. It feels a little bit easier. Like let's not set the bar too high here. The other thing would be that we're afraid to feel. So this is the crux. This is the meat. This is the part that I know cognitively I struggle with on a deeper level. This is what I mean when I'm like, I think I know what would help me relax. I think I know what would help me be more comfortable in not doing anything right now. And yet I don't want to do it because it means trying to feel into my feelings and figure out what's going on. And it might be something I don't want to feel. So not very pleasant. This is why we can stay busy to avoid things. So if there's something that you are motivated enough to avoid, you're going to keep yourself busy no matter what. So that can be the system that's operating a little bit more. You might be trying to work all behaviorally. Why can't I stop? Why can't I seem to just sit in silence? I feel so uncomfortable when I'm laying down for bed and there's no noises or whatever. That might mean that there's something deeper that is needing your attention. And this is what I do all day, every day with my clients. This is how I work, creating that space for emotional processing. We have a lot of good reasons to be afraid of our emotions, to have stories built up around them, what's okay to feel, what's not okay to feel. It can generate a lot of anxiety for us, and anxiety kind of lends itself to a sense of urgency and immediacy, and can convince us that other things, all these 10 things we are doing right now are all equally important and they all need to happen right now. And it can keep us in that top level space while ignoring the feelings below it. And so there's a really good book called Living Like You Mean It by Frederick that I'll link below, where he talks about this idea of feelings phobia. So if this is something you're really interested in and you want to learn more, go check that out and learn from him, because he has really great things to say about it. But there really is a process of becoming more mindfully attuned with ourselves. This is what a lot of people are seeking through coming to therapy. We know that we aren't super attuned, but we don't exactly know how to do it. But beginning that process, whether by yourself or with someone else, beginning that process of becoming attuned to noticing when you feel a little sad or when you feel angry or something is scary, and or even when something is really joyful and you're so excited about it, and maybe there's a part of you that wants to pull away from that feeling because it can be really intense, or we have had experiences where excitement led to disappointment, things that can make us a little bit more averse to feeling. If we can start to become more aware, name what's going on for us, maybe notice in that silence, or when you go on a walk without any music, noticing if anything is coming up for you and getting curious with it and spending some time with it to see maybe it can kind of loosen and start to dissipate. And over time, as we do that more, we can find more comfort or more solace in staying focused on something, on one thing at a time, in having a pause or a break, a moment to just look out the window and focus on your breath. We might find more peace and solace in doing those things. And also in my last episode, I think I touch on this a bit, but we can reframe sometimes. What is it that we want to do with our life? That feeling that we get convinced that all of these tasks that we're multitasking on are all super important. Maybe some of them actually aren't so important and wouldn't matter so much if we just put that to the side and we took a moment, or we just focused on one thing at a time. Life is one big, long, constant project, journey, adventure. And so it's ever evolving. There might be times where you're feeling a little bit more caught up and you just can't slow yourself down. And as we know, maybe that means that your nervous system is a little bit more revved up, and it's going to take some more intentional effort and time to really calm it down and, know it's time to relax. There's also moments in our life where things just are stressful and we're probably not going to relax because our body has a really awesome survival mechanism and really values our safety. And so if we're in a stressful or difficult situation, it's going to keep some of those guards up to keep us safe. But yeah, it's an ever evolving process. I would absolutely love to hear if I didn't mention something that you think is really helpful for being more comfortable in boredom or in the quiet, for not being distracted all the time, not reaching for like 7 things at once, and being able to kind of calm down when we're feeling overstimulated. So please comment below so that everybody else listening to this episode can check it out and learn from you as well. And yeah, if you found this helpful, send it to a friend. And send me your questions, please, at 512-655-9888. I would love to chat with you in a future episode. So, all right. Take care, guys.